Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at weather for the coming few days. First of all, the mail will extend out into January with the CFS-V2. So we've got this big storm coming up tonight, Storm Frank, that's going to bring heavy rain and gales across many parts of the country. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland could have gusts of wind going up to 70-80 miles an hour overnight tonight into tomorrow. We could also have heavy rain across a lot of the country. That will, I'm sure, add to the flooding woes across Northern England. So a pretty wild 24 hours coming up. Although it's very nice and calm where I am at the moment, sort of like the calm before the storm, but things will get going as we move through into tonight and particularly into tomorrow. After that, we've got this battle going on between the Atlantic-driven pattern that we've been in for several weeks, and then high pressure over Scandinavia and Western Russia that wants to bring bitterly cold air in from the east. I think most of Europe will be plunged into a freezer next week, particularly the north and the east of Europe. But I've got a feeling we're going to stay on the milder side of things for us. I think the Atlantic will more or less manage to fend this off and stay in control of the pattern. It's still a little way off, so there could be change, but there's no real sign this morning that we're bringing in those very cold easterly winds. So I'll show you the charts in a second, but before I get on with that, just to say about the ads. So there's links to articles on all the pages. Guys, go over have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks so much for doing that. There's video ads to both pages which open up with content when you watch them, they'll close back up again. And it's all helping to pay for our website. So this is the GFS chart for 6 o'clock this evening. So it's this area of low pressure here out to west of Scotland, very deep area of low pressure. That is going to bring us a real blow of strong winds. You can see already at 6 o'clock in the evening the isobars are tightening, especially across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So the wind will be picking up through the course this afternoon and into this evening, and then the isobars just tighten further overnight. So this is 6 o'clock in the morning where we've got gales across many parts of the country, and there could be severe gales here for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England as well. It will be wild by the end of the night. The wind should ease through the course tomorrow. It starts off very windy indeed, but you notice the isobars do open out through the course of the day. That's as we're bringing a band of heavy rain through. So the worst of the winds is probably going to be early tomorrow. Then they'll ease a little bit, stay quite windy, but I think the worst of the gales should ease through the course of Wednesday, and the rain becomes the main issue. So this is the precipitation forecast for 6 o'clock this evening. Rain already arriving into Ireland, and that just gets heavier through the night across Ireland, Scotland, coming down into northwestern parts of England through the Irish Sea as well. And then through the course of Wednesday, as the winds are easing a little bit, this band of really heavy rains coming down and down south and east across the country. This could be depositing anything up to 20-25 millimetres across parts of northern England, so another inch of rain. On its own, it probably wouldn't be enough to cause flooding, but of course it's on top of what's already fallen. So I'm afraid places like Cumbria, which aren't going to take, and York, which aren't going to take much to begin to tip them over the edge again, this could tip things over the edge once again later on tomorrow. But at least this band of rain does keep moving quite quickly. It's not a stationary front, so it'll clear out of the way by 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, New Year's Eve. It's out into the North Sea. So we're not looking at sort of 12-24 hours of continuous persistent heavy rain. It'll come through, deposit quite a lot of rain in a couple of hours, and then carry on shifting eastward. So that's good news in a way, but it's not a stalling weather front. New Year's Eve, by the way, will bring quite a lot of heavy showers from the west, and those could be a little bit wintry perhaps over high ground in the north. Now after that, as I was talking about yesterday in the video, we've got this battle between this large high pressure to the east and the low pressure in the Atlantic. So this is the GFS for Saturday, the 2nd of January, when we've got a 1045 millibar area of high pressure over Scandinavia and backing into western Russia, with low pressure coming up against that high pressure. So this is a battle that's going on here. And at least over the weekend, the Atlantic is struggling. We are under easterly winds, but the Atlantic is definitely running out of steam a little bit as it's coming up against this reach. So, for example, here on Sunday the 3rd of January, you might expect that the winds would be going into the east here. Certainly the signals are there that the Atlantic is really running out of steam, but it gets reinvigorated again on Monday with another area of low pressure coming in. So actually this cold pool and the high pressure just stays lurking up to the northeast, and we stay under these westerly winds, albeit they are cooler than we've had. The air is coming from the northern part of the Atlantic as opposed to the tropical Atlantic, as the Azores High, which has been the main driver for all this warm air that's been piling up from the Azores and the tropics, is sort of flattening off down to the south of Spain. So it is allowing cooler air to move in, and that is an indirect response to this high pressure up over Scandinavia. So although we're not in easterly winds at this point on Monday the 4th, it is having an influence. It is having an influence to cool us down compared to what we've had, but it's still an Atlantic driven westerly pattern as opposed to easterlies. And then just keep low pressure coming through the country. This is the ECMWF, by the way. The low pressure just keeps piling in from the Atlantic, so there could be a lot of heavy rain in with this through the course of next week. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we get more in the way of flooding. And as we go through to the end of next week, we get this really deep area of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. That looks a bit alarming because it will bring further bouts of very heavy rain as well. Possibly signs that it's starting to shift a bit further south, maybe hinting at the wind going into the northeast or the north by day 10, which is Friday the 8th of January. But still, essentially, this is generally a mild Atlantic-driven pattern compared to what we've had through December. It's cooler, but it still is westerly driven. So this is the GFS, that's the ECMWF, this is the GFS, and again, same idea for Saturday. We've got high pressure up over Scandinavia and western Russia. The low pressure systems are coming in off the Atlantic, running up against that high pressure and really struggling over the weekend. There's the upper air temperature showing the extent of that cold pool in the east and the northeast of Europe. We remain under relatively mild Atlantic driven weather. Sunday, another area of low pressure coming up against that ridge, and again it is a struggle to bring that low pressure in, and the low pressures are sort of stalling over the country as we go through into Monday. So again, could be a lot of heavy rain in with that, and into Tuesday, which is the 5th of January. Again, still unsettled low pressures coming through on a southerly track. Still this ridge over Scandinavia and western Russia with an extensive cold pool wanting to come in, but not quite able to because of these areas of low pressure moving in off the Atlantic. By the time you get through to day 10, which is Friday the 8th of January, we are taking low pressure across the country and possibly then starting to open the door to northerly or northeasterly winds. So cold air could start to dig down then from the north and the northeast as we go out beyond the first week of January. But of course, as we're going along with this change to proper cold conditions keeps being pushed back. So whether this actually ever materialises, we'll have to wait and see. But now the idea is probably to open the door to cold and northerly northeasterly winds after the first week of January. But the main story the next week could well be the rainfalls. I'll show you the GFS precipitation ensembles and temperature ensembles. And just look at all these rainfall spikes coming up again next week. So just a massive rain really through the course of next week. And that's because the low pressure coming up against this ridge to the northeast, grinding to a halt, stalling over the country, just provides the potential for copious amounts of rain. In terms of the temperatures, notice we have got a few cold outlier members here through the course of next week. So again, it's beyond the realms of impossibility that we could eventually see this high pressure over Scandinavia winning the battle and turning the winds into the east. It's just not the most favoured solution by any means. But as long as these cold outlier members continue for next week, we can't discount the potential for turning things significantly colder from an easterly direction. I think things will turn cooler anyway next week from the west, but we can't rule out the potential for bringing in some really cold easterly winds. If you have a look at the CFS V2, finally, before I go for January, going to have a look. First of all, we'll have a look at the 500 millibar height anomalies. So we've got low pressure for the coming week, which is the 29th of December to 4th of January. Low pressure is in the Atlantic. with the ridge over Scandinavia. That's a good representation of what we're just looking at. Flow going something like that. So it's a battle, but we're just about still staying under those mild westerly winds. As we go through to the second week, the 5th to the 11th of January, we bring low pressure in from the west with this westerly flow coming through as well. So it's becomes generally Atlantic driven, with that ridge being pushed off to the north of Scandinavia, probably not affecting us too much. The following week still shows a lot of blocking up to the north of the country. So again, we can see from the red colours here that we've got plenty of blocking over the pole, but we still just about somehow managed to stay in a mild Atlantic driven pattern. Quite amazing how that is happening, but the blocking just isn't in quite the right place. But with this extent of blocking over the top of the pole by then, it does need keeping an eye on, because the model could be getting things a little bit wrong here, and there is so much red up there over the pole, but I won't discount the possibility of turning cold. And then the next week, which is the 19th to 25th of January, still stays Atlantic driven, but we've still got lots of high pressure up over the top of the pole, which could be threatening colder conditions. So it's a very complicated pattern, this. It wouldn't take much to deliver us with quite a cold month, actually, based on that. There is a lot of blocking there up to the north, but temperature anomalies for the coming month look mild. 29th to 4th of January, warmer than average. The next week, the 5th to the 11th of January, not as warm, but still generally a bit above average. The third weekly period, we're in those red colours again, so another milder than average week. And then the fourth weekly period, the 19th to 25th of January, that looking milder than average as well. The rainfall looks like this. It's wetter than average through the coming weeks, significantly so. Still wetter than average, particularly to the south of the country, the 5th to the 11th of January. The third week looks nearer normal, but still hinting at being a bit on the wetter side. And then the fourth week, 19th, 25th of January, that's looking wet as well. So although the CFS B2 is seeing quite a lot of blocking there over Scandinavia and even extending it over the pole, it still somehow is keeping us in this Atlantic driven mild onslaught, Atlantic onslaught type pattern, with lots and lots of heavy rain through the course of January. So if I say if it did come off like this, I think it would be a very, very, very frustrating month for cold and snow lovers, because the blocking is there, it's just not really doing anything for us. And I always say with blocking, the key is to get it in exactly the right position to deliver cold for our part of the world. And the CFS doesn't want it to, although it is there to the north, it doesn't bring us those cold winds. But all of that's a very long way off. We've still got to sort out this battle next week. It looks as though we're just about staying with the Atlantic. It's a close run thing. And there is still just about the possibility that winds might go into the east next week and deliver us a bit of a cold shot, but at the moment it's not by any means the favoured solution. And the real story for next week could well be the rain, with a lot of heavy rain to come again. There could well be more flooding. Alright, that's it for now. 5-day forecast tomorrow. Come back to that. Thanks for watching.